Today we're going to be taking all of my Jurassic World Dominion figures and we're going to be putting them from biggest over here all the way to smallest down here. This figure right here is the largest Dominion figure that I have. This is the Dreadnoughtus figure and it is super long. It's probably 3 or 4 feet in length. But it still has some really cool features. You can even open and close the mouth and twist the head around too. So let's put this dinosaur on the very far left as the biggest dinosaur. Let's see, what super colossal figure is next? It's a tough call, but I think the Giganotosaurus might be the next largest. This figure is huge, has a classic green coloring, the awesome super sharp spine, and the really cool teeth. These are pretty unique. Let's set this super colossal Giganotosaurus down right next to the Dreadnoughtus figure. These are our 2 largest figures. Next up has got to be our super colossal T-Rex with the new brown and black coloring. You won't see this on older Jurassic World figurines. This one is super cool. Let's put this right next to our giant Giganotosaurus figure. Next is this awesome Atrociraptor figure. This one is the white with 2 different tones of brown striping along its back and sides. And unlike the other super colossal figures we've seen so far, the teeth are actually fully inside the mouth compared to the other figures we've seen so far where the teeth are on kind of like the outside of the mouth. All right, there we go. Let's move on to the next biggest, which is this tall Brachiosaurus figure from Jurassic World Dominion. Let me stand it up. Now this dinosaur is a lot taller than these other dinosaurs right here, but its body is a bit smaller and it's just shorter in size overall, so that's why I'm putting it over here. But it's got some pretty cool detailing, the blue coloring around its head. And next up in size is this giant Apatosaurus figure. Check out the size difference between this one and the Brachiosaurus over here. It's a little bit shorter, it's still standing on all 4 legs, and it has a really long neck, but instead of going up super tall like that one, this one kind of sticks out forwards more. All right, now we're moving on to our slightly smaller figurines. We're gonna start with this T-Rex, which has the identical coloring as the super colossal figure right over there. This is a really cool T-Rex. I like the features on this one, and this one has a ginormous head compared to older Jurassic World T-Rexes. Right over here, we've got the Hammond Collection Tyrannosaurus Rex figure. This one has some really cool orange-brown coloring. It has a lot more detail than many of the other Jurassic World T-Rexes. It even has marbled eyes. Check out all that texture. And these figures are super posable too, which is an awesome feature. Next, we've got this Thrashing Giganotosaurus figure in the same coloring as the super colossal figure over here. They look pretty similar. This one's quite a bit smaller, although it's still probably around a foot in length from tail to head. So let's set this down right next to the T-Rex figure. All right, what do we go with next here? I think next is this Allosaurus figure. This figure is a little bit smaller than the T-Rexes and the Giganotosaurus figure here, but it is a lot larger than a lot of my other Allosaurus figures. Plus it has a battle damage feature right on its side that you can open and close. Let's get this standing right next to the Giganotosaurus. The next up in size is the Therizinosaurus figurine, which was really cool in the Dominion movie. So we're gonna set this down right next to the Allosaurus figure. And check out those huge claws on its hand and the really long neck with the big face at the very top. We've got another herbivore dinosaur next in size here. This is the Stegosaurus with some pretty cool coloring. It's got the brown, some lighter tan, green, and then the clay red at the very top. All right, let's set it down next to the Therizinosaurus. Look at those spikes. They're a little bit taller than the Therizinosaurus, although if this was standing up all the way, it would definitely be a lot taller. Here is the Yangchuanosaurus figure. This, I don't think, was in the new Jurassic World Dominion movie, but it came out as part of the toy line. It's got some really cool coloring. It's got an action that lets you move the neck around in a lifelike way. And you know what? I think it is actually a little bit bigger than the Stegosaurus. So let's shift the Stegosaurus over and put this dinosaur right there. Next is a really interesting looking dinosaur. This is the Ankylosaurus. It's got the clay red coloring with the brown top, a super long neck, and it stands on 4 legs. Let's put this right next to the Stegosaurus figure. I can't quite tell which one is the next largest, but I'm gonna go with the Rajasaurus figure in the blue and gray coloring. And it's got that cool little spike right at the top of its head. Now let's set it right next to the Ankylosaurus. Let's see if it stands up. I think its legs are kind of broken, so that'll have to do. Here is the Sound Surge Giganotosaurus figure. Once again, it has pretty similar coloring as the super colossal figure right here, and this one comes with sound effects as well. It's pretty cool, so let's set this right next to the Rajasaurus figure. The next in size, I think, is this Pyroraptor figurine. This is the basic edition, but it still has the cool fiery red coloring and the black on its tail, on its legs, and a little bit on its head too. Let's set them down right here. And very close in size to the Pyroraptor is this basic Atrociraptor figure in the same coloring as the super colossal figure that we have back here. So let's go down all the way to the end and set them on the table. All right, now the figures are getting a little bit smaller. I think next up is the Megaraptor figure in the bright red and blue and a little bit of tan right along its face. And this figure is cool because it actually has an action. When you press down on its back, it has a chomping action. Here is, I believe it's pronounced the Dryptosaurus. And a cool new feature that Mattel is putting on these toys is this little slide. It's like a thing that swings back and forth, and it actually swings their head back and forth and opens their mouth too, which is pretty cool. Now let's set it down right next to the Megaraptor. Next is the Hammond Collection Baryonyx figure. This one comes in the gray, dark blue with the yellow striping. And like all the Hammond Collection figures, is super posable and really cool. Let's put this down right at the end. Here we've got another Hammond Collection figurine. This is the Parasaurolophus. It's got some pretty bright coloring and of course is super posable and adjustable as well. Next is the bright Ichthyovenator. It looks kind of like a Spinosaurus because it has the big spine on its back and a long and narrow snout, but it has a super bright and much larger tail and is a lot smaller than a Spinosaurus, I think. So let's go ahead and put this down right next to the Parasaurolophus. Here we've got a huge Sinoceratops figurine with some bright yellow coloring around its all black eyes and the yellow coloring right on its tail as well. And like many of these other figures, it has the action that when you press down on its back, it lifts up its head. Let's see, next up in size is this Triceratops figure in the green and brown coloring. Let's put this at the very end. Oh, you know what? It looks like we're out of space at the very end though. So let's create a new row in the front, right up here. We've got another Triceratops figure next, but this one is from the Hammond Collection. So compared to this other Triceratops figure right here, you can see that this one has a lot more detailing and differencing in the color, because this one basically has two different colors. This one kind of fades into all sorts of other different colors. And of course, is a lot more posable as well. Next up is the Iguanodon figurine in the tan and darker brown on top with the striping. Let's set down this Iguanodon right next to the Triceratops. Now we're down to the really small ones. So let's start with this brand new one that I bought. This is the Geniodectes Cirrus dinosaur. All right, this dinosaur is pretty brightly colored. It's got a dark gray body, but then it has this super bright coloring along its leg, its neck, its face, and the super bright red on top. And this is the Extreme Battle Damage edition, so you can click it open and closed with that button on the top. All right, let's put this Geniodectes down right next to the Iguanodon. We've got a few more Extreme Battle Damage dinosaurs right here that are the same size. This first one is a Velociraptor, and I've also gotten a Trociraptor figure. And they both have that button on the top that activates the battle damage on both sides of its body. Let's set these down next in line. I've got a couple more Atrociraptor figures right here. These are the non-battle damage versions. I've got an orange one with the tan striping, and then of course the white with brown striping, just like the giant super colossal version. Let's get this first Atrociraptor down. in a second. Here is another Pyroraptor. This is a pretty small figure, and this one actually has the extreme battle damage on the side as well. Check that out, it's pretty cool. It's got the same classic red and black coloring along its body. And let's set it down right next to the white Atrociraptor. This next figure, I believe, is called the Moros Intrepidus. It's got some pretty unique green and orange coloring. It's got the light green eyes, some pretty cool feathering and detailing all over its body. And let's set it down as the next smallest dinosaur. All right, now we're getting down to the real small dinosaurs. These are both Dimetrodons, and their spines make them look really tall, but actually their bodies are really short. This first brown Dimetrodon is a normal one, doesn't have any special features, so we'll put that next in line. But this other Dimetrodon actually has battle damage on the side, like many of these other small figures, which is pretty cool. So let's set that down right there. And here are our last two dinosaurs. We've got a Miragaia dinosaur with the huge spikes on the side, and we've also got a Therizinosaurus figure, which is really small, but still has the giant claws and the classic coloring. All right, let's set these down. Looks like we have just enough space. Let's get started with one of the biggest Dominion predators that I have. This is the new T-Rex figure. This newest T-Rex figure has a ginormous head, the tiny arms that are classic for a T-Rex, and you can use the tail to move the torso around and open and close the jaw. Our first Camp Cretaceous predator is this huge Spinosaurus figure in the tan, brown, and red coloring. This figure is quite adjustable. It has much larger arms than the T-Rex figure, and you can move the head in all different directions and open and close its jaw. This predator over here from Jurassic World Dominion is the Giganotosaurus. And this is one of the biggest stars in the new movie. It has a pretty awesome spine running along its back. It looks pretty sharp and dangerous. And this figure has two features. The first swings its torso back and forth, and the second opens and closes its jaw. Next, let's grab one of these huge, super colossal Camp Cretaceous predators. This is the Indominus Rex, and this figure is so much larger than all the other figures I have. It's got some spikes on the back of its neck, even on its elbows. It's got some huge claws, and of course, the iconic teeth. Back to the Dominion side, we've got a huge Allosaurus figure. This figure also stands on its two hind legs. It's got some medium-sized front arms, and it has a button on its back to control the jaw. And there's battle damage on the side that you can open and close. Let's go ahead and grab this other super colossal figure from Camp Cretaceous. This figure is a Carnotaurus, and it is actually the Carnotaurus Toro figure. It's got little spikes running down all of its back. It's got some huge horns on the top of its head, and on the other side of its head, it actually has a huge battle damage scar. That is really cool. This Dominion predator is the Dino Tractor Endoraptor figure. It's got a really cool dark blue reflective painting all over its body, along with the classic gold stripe down both sides. And this figure has some pretty cool features. First, you can use the arms to twist its head around and open its mouth. And there's also a button on its back that activates the jaw just by itself. Check out those eyes that light up too. Here is our first T-Rex predator from Camp Cretaceous. This figure has the tiny front arms and the huge back legs. And with this figure, you can use the tail to twist its neck, move it all around in all sorts of different directions, and look super realistic. But wait, we've also got a T-Rex figure from Jurassic World Dominion. This Predator has the battle damage on the side that you can turn on and off, and the coloring is quite a bit different from the Camp Cretaceous version. It's a lot darker, there's some orange, and then even the top is different as well. This is a much smaller Carnotaurus Toro figure from Camp Cretaceous. It's got a much darker red coloring than the super colossal version we saw, although it still has the battle damage scar right on its nose. And with this figure, you can use the tail to twist its neck around and open and close its jaw. Check out those sound effects too. Our next Dominion Predator is actually a brand new one that I'm gonna open up right here today. This is the Scorpio Venator from the Roar Strikers series. This dinosaur species kind of reminds me of a Carnotaurus, although its snout is a lot shorter and it doesn't have the horns on the top of its head. And it's got some pretty cool coloring as well with the yellow, the dark blue, and the white. And this figure has an action where you press down on its body and it chomps. This Camp Cretaceous Predator is the Scorpius Rex figure, and I've actually got two of them right here. This one is the larger one though. This one has a dark blue coloring and the black on top with two action buttons. The first activates its jaw, and the second activates its slashing arms. Plus, it has a spring-loaded tail so you can swing those poisonous quills back and forth. Here is my second Scorpius Rex figure from Camp Cretaceous. It's a bit smaller, and you can see it has green coloring instead of the dark blue and the yellow underbelly as well. And this figure is quite adjustable. You can move its arms, its elbows, you can move its legs and knees and the tail around as well, but there is no action button for this one, so you have to control all the parts manually. This Predator from Jurassic World Dominion is the Rajasaurus. I've actually got two figures of this species, and this one is in the light brown and dark blue coloring. It's got some interesting spikes and a horn on the top of its head, and it has a chomping action when you press down on its body. Up next from Camp Cretaceous is the Cryolophosaurus figure. I've also got two of this species as well. This one is in the dark blue, white, and red coloring, and it comes with a ton of sound effects and a tail that moves the head around. This Predator is the Pyroraptor from Jurassic World Dominion. It's a basic figure, so it doesn't have a whole lot going on with its coloring, but it's got some cool texturing with the feathers you can see on its tail, as well as on the top of its head too. Back here from Dominion as well is another raptor, but this one is actually a Mega Raptor figure. It's got some similar red coloring with some dark blue, and this figure has a chomping action when you press down on its body. This Predator from Camp Cretaceous is the Sarcosuchus. It has some pretty bright and crazy coloring that you probably wouldn't see out in the wild, with the purple, there's some red and orange, and then the blue underbelly. But this one has a really long snout with tons of teeth, which I think is a really cool feature. Plus, you can operate the jaw by pressing the button on the tail. Here's a dinosaur that probably not too many people are familiar with. This is the Yangchuanosaurus. It stands on its two back legs, it has some medium-sized front arms, it's got a bright crown on the top of its head, and some cool ridges that run all the way down its neck. And this figure features two actions. You can use the tail to twist the torso back and forth, and the button on the tail activates the jaw. This dark green Albertosaurus figure is from Camp Cretaceous. It's got the orange stripe running down both sides of its body. And while there's not a whole lot that you can move on this figure, there is an action button on its tail, both to move the head around and to open and close the jaw. Here is another one of my newest figures in the Dominion collection. This is from the Dino Trackers series. This is, I believe it's pronounced an Eocarcharia. It's got the feather texturing all over its body, just like the Pyroraptor, and it has an action slide on its back used to open its mouth and twist its neck back and forth. This is the Dominion Atrociraptor, and I think it's one of the first Atrociraptors in this collection. This one is a pretty basic figure, so you can move the arms, the legs, and the tail, but it doesn't have any action buttons or features. This Predator is the Baryonyx figure from Camp Cretaceous. It's got the green and brown body, and an action button on its back to activate its long jaw. Here is the second Giganotosaurus of this Predator collection. This is a much smaller version of the Giganotosaurus, but it still has the same awesome coloring and it comes with sound effects as well. Over here from Camp Cretaceous, we've got another Baryonyx figure. It has similar coloring with the green and brown, and also an action button on its back to activate its jaw. Now check out this Atrociraptor figure from Dominion. This is part of the Rowdy Roars collection. You can press the button on the top of its head for sound effects and some movement. And you can touch its jaw and it'll move around as well. Here is our last Camp Cretaceous Predator of this collection. This is the Ceratosaurus. It's got the huge horn on the top of its head and the classic Ceratosaurus coloring and a slide lever action for sound effects and moving the jaw. And here is a much smaller Carnotaurus figure from Jurassic World Dominion. It's got the broken horn on the top of its head and very different coloring compared to the Camp Cretaceous Carnotaurus figures. First that we're gonna check out is, of course, the Tyrannosaurus Rex. How could this dinosaur not be in the next Jurassic World movie? And this specific T-Rex figure is actually from the last movie called Jurassic World Dominion. The next dinosaur that I think will be in Jurassic World 4 is the Spinosaurus. This is actually the Camp Cretaceous figure, and it is even a little bit larger than the T-Rex figure. Also, I really hope that they bring back the Indominus Rex. This new dinosaur was made known from the first Jurassic World movie, and this figure is actually the battle damage edition, meaning with this button right here, you can actually hide the battle damage on the side. And there's a button on its tail for the roaring action. Next up for my predictions, I've got the huge Giganotosaurus figure. We saw this dinosaur in the last Jurassic World Dominion movie, and this figure is actually the super colossal Giganotosaurus, so as you can see, it is way larger than any of the other figures that I have. Up next is the mighty Mosasaurus figure. This dinosaur was from the first Jurassic World movie, and I think it is one of the best aquatic dinosaurs that they've shown, so I hope they bring it back. And with this Mosasaurus figure, you can move all the fins around and open and close the jaw. Over here, we've got another T-Rex figure. This is a Battle Edition T-Rex. I think it might be from Camp Cretaceous, and you can see that it's got some battle damage slashes right on its side. Plus, the figure is fully posable with its arms, legs, tail, neck, and its head, and it has a button to chomp the jaw. Up next for my Jurassic World 4 predictions is the Therizinosaurus. This dinosaur had an epic battle in the Jurassic World Dominion movie, and I wouldn't be surprised if they brought it back again for another fight. This figure has a fully posable body and an attack button on its tail. Over here, we've got the Carnotaurus, one of my favorite carnivores. This figure features posable legs and arms, and an attack tail that moves its head and chomps its jaw. This is another T-Rex figure, but this is actually an older figure, I think from the first Jurassic World movie. It has a fully tan body, other than a little bit of gray on its face, and it features posable arms, legs, and an attack button on its back for chomping. I think Jurassic World 4 might also have a Pentaceratops. This is one massive dinosaur and it has one of the biggest frills that I've seen. And this figure has two buttons, one for a head ramming action and the other for a torso swinging action. Here's another herbivore figure. This is a Sinoceratops. Jurassic World has a few different versions of this figure. This is in the light gray with some tan and yellow detailing. And it features an attack tail that moves its head. My next prediction is another awesome predator. This is an Allosaurus. I believe this figure was released with Camp Cretaceous, and it features posable arms, legs, and tail, and has a slide lever action on its back for roaring and chomping. Right over here is another Allosaurus figure. I believe this one was released, I think, from Fallen Kingdom. And this Allosaurus features a dark gray body with yellow detailing. It has posable arms and legs, and a single button on its back for the chomping action. All right, let's dig into these brand new ones that I just bought. This first box has a Scorpiovinator and an Iguanodon. These are part of the Dino Trackers Roarin' Battle Pack. Here is the Scorpiovinator. I have one other Scorpiovinator figure, but this is a whole new color scheme. It's got dark brown, some orange, and then the light underbelly. Plus, it has a chomping action. And here is the Iguanodon figure. I have a few other Iguanodon figures that look pretty similar to this, but once again, this has totally different coloring. This one features a mostly tan body with the brown detailing along the top of its body. And of course, you can press down on its body for a roaring action. Next up to open up from my brand new figures is this Hammond Collection Ankylosaurus. And let's attach that tail. All right, this figure is looking quite a bit different from many of my other Ankylosaurus figures. First off, it's a bit larger than many of my other Ankylosauruses, and it has much more natural coloring with the dark green on top and the lighter underbelly. But best of all, like all of the Hammond Collection figures, this figure is super posable. It looks like its tail has 3 or 4 different joints, so you can move it around in a really lifelike way. Of course, you can move the legs around and pose them in all sorts of ways. And coolest of all, you can move its head around and even open and close its mouth. And next up is the Hammond Collection Dilophosaurus. And here it is. So once again, it is very posable all over its body. And best of all, this figure actually features a removable frill. So you can actually take it off and replace it with this little piece as if the frills are closed. Next up over here, I've got the Sound Surge Indominus Rex figure. This figure is a lot smaller than many of my other I-Rexes. I also think Jurassic World might have a Scorpius Rex in it. This figure is quite large and it features 2 attack buttons, one for the jaw and one for arm slashing. And of course, what would be a Jurassic World movie without a Stegosaurus in it? This figure features the brown body with some green and tan detailing, and it has the attack feature where you can swing its tail. I also hope that Jurassic World 4 has some Baryonyxes in it. This Baryonyx is a bright green color with some brown detailing, and of course has a roar action. And I also have this older Baryonyx figure from Fallen Kingdom with the orange highlight on the top of its head. Here's another dinosaur specifically from the older Jurassic World movies. This is an Endoraptor. This is the basic figure, so you can move its arms, its legs, and its tail. Next up, I've got a Carcharodontosaurus figure. This one is in the light tan yellow coloring with some brown and orange detailing. And it has an attack button on its back for chomping its jaw. Here I've got another Dilophosaurus figure. This figure is a lot larger than the Hammond Collection version, and it is the basic version, so you can move its frills back and forth, as well as its arms, its legs, and its tail. Jurassic World 4 has gotta have some winged dinosaurs too. This is a Pteranodon, and this figure features the orange coloring along its wings and the brown body. Here's another dinosaur from Jurassic World Dominion that I think might show up again. It's an Atrociraptor, and this figure is the basic edition, so you can move its arms, its legs, and its tail. Here's another Ankylosaurus figure. You can see that it's quite a bit smaller than the Hammond Collection, and it still has some pretty realistic coloring with the green and the gray and the brown. Plus, there's an action button on this one for swinging the tail. Next up is another Dilophosaurus figure, but this one is battery operated, so let's hear some sounds from it. This figure over here is an old Velociraptor figure from the first Jurassic World movie. It features posable legs and posable arms. Next up, also from the Jurassic World Dominion movie, is this basic Pyroraptor figure. And I really hope they bring this one back for the 4th movie. This Pyroraptor is the basic figure, so you can move its arms, its legs, and its tail. Over here, I've got another Indominus Rex figure. This one is older, and I believe it was called the Bite and Thrash Indominus Rex. Check it out, another Ankylosaurus figure. This one features much brighter coloring all over its body and has a slide lever action on its back to swing its tail around. This figure set is from Jurassic World Dominion. It features a Parasaurolophus and Owen with his lasso. Up next is another Pteranodon figure. This one is a whole lot smaller, but it has some pretty cool detailing along its wings and a button on its back for flapping the wings. And of course, one that I'm pretty sure that they'll have in the next movie is Velociraptor Blue. And not only that, but we also saw Velociraptor Beta in the last movie as well. So I think that they'll be bringing these Velociraptors back. I've also got a few more Velociraptor figures in here. This first one has a light green body with a darker detailing along the top and features posable arms, legs, and a mouth. And this second Velociraptor features a dark gray body with yellow detailing and the posable arms, legs, and jaw. My next prediction is a Stygimoloch dinosaur. This figure specifically is pretty small and has a dark body, but some dark purple coloring along its neck and its head, and it features a headbutting action when you press down on the tail. We saw some Apatosaurus figures in the last movie, but I think that they might bring back the Brachiosaurus dinosaurs. This figure is a baby Brachiosaurus and has a light green body with a darker green along the top and has opposable jaw, neck, and legs. Over here is another Parasaurolophus figure. I believe this one is also from Jurassic World Dominion, and it features a posable head, arms, and legs. I've predicted a few other horned dinosaurs, but I think Jurassic World will also have Triceratops dinosaurs in it. This figure is a lot smaller than many of the other horned dinosaurs that I have, and it features battle damage that you can open and close on the side. And here is another Atrociraptor figure. This one's a lot smaller than the one that we saw earlier, but it has a darker red coloring with the gray detailing, and it has battle damage that you can open and close on the side. Right over here is a miniature Dilophosaurus figure. It has the brown body with the blue detailing, and it still has the frills on the front that you can open and close. And last of all is a teeny tiny Spinosaurus figure. It still has the giant spine on its back, and it has a chomping action as well. Let's get started with this giant T-Rex from Jurassic Park. This is JP29. This figure is rubbery all over aside from its legs and its arms, and you can use the tail to swing its head back and forth. Over here is the Slash and Roar Giganotosaurus. This figure is pretty big. It's about the size of many of my T-Rex figures, and it has two actions. The first button activates the torso for swinging back and forth, and the second button activates its jaw. Over here on the Jurassic Park side, we've got a Utah Raptor. This is JP22. This figure also has the all rubbery body aside from its arms and its legs, and it has a chomping action when you press down on its tail. And check it out, it's got pink eyes. I don't think I have another dinosaur with those color eyes. Next, from Jurassic World Dominion, we've got the giant new T-Rex figure. This figure is huge and comes with a few features. First, you can move the tail back and forth, which swings its torso back and forth, and there's also a button on its jaw to activate opening and closing the jaw too. Over here from Jurassic Park, we've got another huge T-Rex figure. This figure has a rubbery body, just like all the other Jurassic Park T-Rexes, and this one actually has marbled eyes. Plus, this figure has a stomach compartment, so you can actually feed this dinosaur small dinosaurs, and then you can release them from the stomach down here. Next up, from Jurassic World Dominion, we've got an Ankylosaurus figure. This figure has the clay red body with the brown detailing. It's got spikes all over its body, and the tail controls the head. And there's a button to activate the jaw too. From Jurassic Park, this is JP35, and I actually can't remember the name of this species, so comment down below if you recognize which dinosaur figure this is. But it's got these interesting wing-like things coming off of its arms. It's also got some huge spikes coming out of its head and its back. And of course, it's got a super long tail with those spikes at the very end as well. From Jurassic World Dominion, this is a Megaraptor figure. This figure is red in the back and a dark gray-blue color in the front, and it comes with an action that when you press down on its back, it chomps. Check out those super long claws on its hand too. Check this out, we've got a younger looking Tyrannosaurus Rex from Jurassic Park. This is the JP06 figure. It's got some battle damage on the side, it's got a full rubber body, and it looks pretty full grown, but because it's a bit smaller, that's what makes me think it's a juvenile T-Rex. This is the Pyroraptor figure from Jurassic World Dominion. It's got the classic red coloring on its body with the black on its tail and its legs, and some further detailing on its face too. This is a basic figure, so you can only move the arms, the legs, and the tail just a bit. This is the Hammond Collection Ceratosaurus figure. This dinosaur has some pretty bright coloring all over its body, and of course it's got the iconic red coloring around its face and on its back. And since this figure is from the Hammond Collection, it is super posable, and you can move all the joints in all sorts of directions. Here is the Jurassic Park Stegosaurus figure. This is JP24. It's got some battle damage right on its shoulder up there, and some smooth green coloring throughout the rest of its body. And this figure actually has an action button. When you move this part up here, it swings its tail back and forth. From the Dominion series, we have the ginormous Therizinosaurus figure. This figure is mostly black, and it has some pretty cool detailing with all the feathers, and of course it's got the iconic red stripe up its back, and those huge claws on its hand too. Check out how big those are. And this figure has an action where you can move the tail to control the torso, and open and shut the jaw too. Check it out, I actually found a much smaller Therizinosaurus in this collection as well. It has much of the same coloring with the dark blue everywhere and the red on its back, but this figure is way smaller. Next from Jurassic Park is JP19, a Parasaurolophus figure. This is light tan with some darker striping along its back, and it's got the bright red along the back of its head too. Plus, it's got an action button on its back to move its legs for running. Here from Dominion, I've got two Rajasaurus figures. They look identical aside from their coloring. This first one is a dark blue color. It's got some lighter white on its chin and its neck as well, while this one is a light brown color with some dark blue detailing along its back and neck. And both have the same action button that when you press down on their back, they have a chomping action. Here is a ginormous Triceratops figure from the Jurassic Park collection. This is JP08. This one also has some battle damage right there on its shoulder, and it's got the rubbery body, just like many of the other Jurassic Park figures. And when you press down on this figure's stomach, it actually lifts its head up as well. Next up, we've got a few Baryonyx figures from Jurassic Park. This one is JP63. They look identical aside from the coloring again. This one is a dark brown color with some brighter detailing, and this one is a bright yellow color with darker detailing along the top. And both these figures have the same action that when you press down on their leg, they twist their neck back and forth. Here is the Dominion Sound Surge Carnotaurus figure. Let's check out those sound effects. That's pretty cool. It's got some pretty plain coloring along its body, but you can still move the legs, the arms, and the tail as well. I've also got the Sound Surge Giganotosaurus from Jurassic World Dominion. This figure is about the same size as the Carnotaurus we just saw, and many of the same features. You can move its arms, its legs, and its tail, and it comes with some cool sound effects too. This next one, I believe, is called an Amargospinus. This is JP58. This is a really old figure. It's got some pretty cool detailing and coloring though. Plus, when you move the dinosaur's leg, you can see that the spines actually stick up on its back, on its neck, and it opens its jaw too. Here is a good old Triceratops from Jurassic Park. This is JP44. It's a smaller figure with the green body and the darker detailing on top. And when you move the leg on this figure, it lifts its head up too. Looks like I've got a few Atrociraptor figures in here. Check it out, they're all about the same size. This first one is a light tan color and is actually in the crawling or sneaking pose, whereas these other two are just in the normal standing pose. This one I think is my favorite coloring because it's a lot brighter and pretty cool looking. Next from Jurassic Park, we've got another Velociraptor figure. This one is striped all over its body and it's got the light underbelly. And you can move the arms and the legs just a little bit. And the neck used to chomp downwards, but I think it's a little broken now. Check it out, I've got another Atrociraptor figure, but this one is a lot larger than the ones I just showed you. This one has the classic white and brown striping coloring and those awesome red eyes as well. But this is a basic figure, so you can only move the arms, the legs, and the tail just a little bit, and you can't open the jaw at all. Right over here, it looks like I've got a baby dinosaur. This is JP58, and this originally came in an egg that you can open up. And look, it's got those marbled eyes as well. That's a pretty cool feature. Here is another Velociraptor figure, but this one has a broken leg feature. Look at that, you can actually move its leg a little bit like that. Plus, you can move the rest of its body as well. The legs, the arms, and you can open and close the jaw too. This Jurassic Park figure, I believe, is called the Chasmosaurus. This is JP21. This looks kind of like a Triceratops, but it has some different features on the front of its body. And this figure has an action that when you move its leg, it lifts its head up. And it has sound effects too. Here is a small Carnotaurus figure from Jurassic World Dominion. It's got the dark green body with the orange detailing on top. This Dilophosaurus figure is from Jurassic Park, and it looks quite a bit different from the new Jurassic World Dilophosaurus figures, don't you think? This is the extreme battle damage Coelurus from Jurassic World Dominion. It's got the green body with the clay red detailing along its legs and its tail, and of course it's got the battle damage on its side that you can turn on and off. Right over here, we've got a Spinosaurus figure from Jurassic Park. This figure is pretty bright with that bright green coloring right next to the dark gray color. And it has an action button that when you move its arm, it opens and closes its jaw. Over here, this is our last Dominion figure. This is the extreme battle damage Velociraptor. Check out that battle damage on its side. And last of all, we've got a Jurassic Park Velociraptor. This is a very classic figure. It's got the brown sides with the black detailing on top and the jaw that you can open and close by pressing on its head. Let's start with some of the big figures. First off, I bet you we'll be seeing another T-Rex. Most likely, Rexy the T-Rex. This is the Hammond Collection T-Rex and is one of the most detailed figures that I have. And you know, it'd be really cool if we saw an Indominus Rex figure in this Chaos Theory show. This Indominus Rex figure is even larger than my Hammond Collection T-Rex, and it has two buttons, one for slashing the arms and one for chomping the jaw. I've got a few more really cool T-Rex figures in here. This one is in the classic brown with a darker brown on top and has the button on the top of its head for the chomping. Check out that huge bite. Over here is a Scorpius Rex figure, and I think this would make a great villain dinosaur in the new show. This dinosaur figure has two action buttons, one to chomp its jaw and the other button to slash its arms. Next up is a Tarbosaurus figure. This is one crazy looking dinosaur with all these spikes on its back and then the bright red underneath its chin. It's a pretty cool chomping action too. Back here, we've got a Suchomimus figure. This figure is actually pretty large, and this is the blue and yellow version. And this version has one action button for chomping the jaw. Here's another giant T-Rex figure. This one is the Battle Damage edition, and you can see the battle damage hidden right there on the side. When I press this button at the top, It flips it so that the battle damage is revealed on both sides. Plus, the full body is posable. My next Chaos Theory prediction is a Dilophosaurus. This figure is the bright red basic version, so it's got the green and red frills that you can open and close, and the big yellow crown on the top of its head. This is a Cryolophosaurus figure. This version is the yellow and brown one. And with this figure, you can move the tail around to move the head in a super lifelike way. And I've also got the other version of the Cryolophosaurus. This is the dark blue with the white and a little bit of red on its back. And just like the yellow version that we just saw, you can move the tail to move the head around. I'd say it's a pretty good bet that the Atrociraptor dinosaur will be in the upcoming Chaos Theory show. We saw this species in the Jurassic World Dominion movie, so I think it's gonna come back. Up next, I've got a Baryonyx figure in here. This one is the gray with dark blue coloring and the bright blue on top, and it has the slide lever action for opening and closing its jaw with sound effects. Here's one of my favorite herbivores, the Stegosaurus. This figure is the dark gray-blue version. It has the pink underbelly and the hidden action button on its spine to move its tail back and forth. So you better watch out for those spikes. And here is our first flying dinosaur of this Chaos Theory predictions haul. This is a Pteranodon, and I believe that this one is from the Hammond collection, so it actually has these rubbery wings, which make it look and feel a whole lot more lifelike. Next up is a Velociraptor figure. Now this is Velociraptor Blue, and I don't know that they'll be showing up in the Chaos Theory show, but I definitely think some Velociraptors will. My next prediction is a Carnotaurus. This is one of my favorite predator dinosaurs, and I'd be really excited if it was in the new Chaos Theory show. This is the Sound Surge edition, and there's a button on the side that you can press for the sound effects. I've got another Suchomimus figure in here. Earlier we saw the dark blue version, and this one is the bright yellow with the brown detailing. And this one actually has two buttons. The first button activates that same chomping action, and it has a second button to activate some tail swinging. Next is the ginormous Albertosaurus figure. And you know, I think this dinosaur looks pretty cool as well. It's got the green body with the orange stripe on the side. And with this figure, you can use the tail to move the head around and chomp its jaw. Next, why don't we open up one of the new figures? This is the Epic Evolution Strike Attack Velociraptor. This is a bright orange Velociraptor. It's got some brown detailing along its back and on its legs. And this figure has a spring-loaded slashing action. I actually have a few other Velociraptors that have this same torso-twisting slash action. Overall, pretty cool. Not too much different compared to the older versions of these Velociraptor figures, though. Next up is the Epic Evolution Strike Attack Guaibasaurus. And part of this new Epic Evolution series, you can see what type of environment that this dinosaur is in. And this one looks like it's a swamp type environment. This is a pretty cool looking dinosaur. It's pretty small, similar in size to the Velociraptor figure. Has some cool coloring too. I like this dark green. It's a very swampy color. And this figure has an attack action as well. When you press down on its body, it has a chomping action. That's pretty cool. It's cool little spikes on the top of its head too. Next up is a Quetzalcoatlus, which is actually a flying dinosaur. And this figure is huge. You probably recognize it from the Jurassic World Dominion movie, and I'm hoping that they bring it back for the Chaos Theory show. And this figure has two buttons. One flaps its wings up and down, and the other, underneath its body, opens and closes its jaw. Over here, I've got a Parasaurolophus figure. This one is in the yellow with some purple and reflective pink coloring, which I think is pretty cool. And on this figure, you can move the tail to move the head around. It's got some sound effects too. And actually, here is another Parasaurolophus figure, but this one is from the Hammond collection. So it's a little bit larger, and the detailing and the painting looks to be around the same quality, so there's not a whole lot more texturing or detailing on this figure. Here we've got a Triceratops, and I think this is the first Triceratops in this Chaos Theory predictions haul. This is the dark green version. It's got a bit of brown detailing along the top and on its frill, and it has two action buttons. One moves its head up and down for this stabbing action, and the other swings its tail back and forth. Alright, here we've got the Allosaurus figure. This is another really cool looking predator figure. This version comes in the dark brown with the dark blue coloring along the top, and it has this slide lever action for the roaring and chomping. Here is another T-Rex. This one is quite a bit smaller than the ones that we saw at the beginning though. That's because this is the Sound Surge T-Rex, so it's got a single button on its back for the roar sound effects. Up next, I've got a Baryonyx here, and I think I've actually got another Baryonyx right back here. This first one, though, looks like it has some battle damage on its side. I think this one was released for Fallen Kingdom. And this figure is colored pretty similar to the Allosaurus that we just saw, with the dark brown on the sides and then the dark blue on the top. And it has a single action button for a chomping action. Here is another Allosaurus figure with totally different coloring. It's got the dark green over most of its body with the white and red detailing. And I love these little spikes that run all the way down its back and even a little bit on its tail. Plus, it's got a slide lever action for the chomping and sound effects. And here I've got another Scorpius Rex figure. This one is a bit smaller than the one that we saw a while ago, and it doesn't have any action buttons, but it is very posable with its arms, its legs, and its tail. Check out those quills on its tail too. And you can still manually open and close the mouth. Now here's a pretty special dinosaur figure. This is an Ankylosaurus figure, but this is from the first Jurassic World movie, so it has this special edition armor plating that you can take off to reveal the normal armor plating underneath. And here is a normal Ankylosaurus figure. This one's a bit more recent though, and it comes in the clay red coloring with the tan spikes and the brown shell. And this figure has a ton of armor all over its body. Check out that tail swinging action. And here is our smallest T-Rex figure yet. This version has the little battle damage on the side and the tail that controls the head and the jaw. Up next is an herbivore called the Pachycephalosaurus with the green and orange coloring. And it's got some battle damage right here on the side that you can press down to reveal the damage underneath. I've also got some Monolophosaurus figures in here, which I really hope show up in the Chaos Theory show. This first one is one of my favorites with the dark green, the yellow, and then the bright red along its head, and you can use the tail to chomp its jaw open and closed. There's also this dark blue Monolophosaurus, which looks really cool, although it doesn't have any action buttons. And then there's this bright green version that actually has some battle damage right on the side. We saw one Dilophosaurus figure earlier, and now here are two more, much smaller versions. This first one is a bright green with the frills that are red and yellow, and there's also this dark purple version that has red, yellow, and orange on its frills. And here are four more Velociraptor figures and my final Velociraptors in this Chaos Theory prediction video. I've got this green one that has a button on its back for slashing its arms up and down. Here's another Velociraptor blue, but this one has a battle damage button on its side. There's this darker blue Velociraptor that has some orange on its back and this really cool reflective gold on its head. And this Velociraptor is actually pretty special because it is from the Hammond collection. So it is much more flexible and posable compared to the other Velociraptor figures. Here is a Spinosaurus figure. This specific figure is actually from the first Jurassic World movie, so it's pretty old, but I love the coloring on this figure. And we've got a few more winged dinosaurs in here. This first one is another Pteranodon. It's got the gray with some purple coloring and a tiny little action button for flapping its wings. And then here's another winged dinosaur called the Dimorphodon, and it has pretty much identical coloring with the gray over most of its body and then some purple detailing in certain spots. And here is our only human figure in this haul. I'm sure you've seen it in the teaser that Darius is back. Next up, I've got a cute little Ankylosaurus, and this cute little dinosaur is called Bumpy, as I'm sure you remember. Next up is a bright red Minmi dinosaur. I really love all the spikes and armor plating over this dinosaur. And I've got a few Stygimoloch figures in here. This first one is like a dark brown coloring with some darker purple coloring along its body. And best of all, you can use its tail for the headbutting action. And here is Stygimoloch Stiggy. This figure has some similar coloring. It's a brighter orange-red coloring and then the purple detailing and striping along its body. But on this smaller figure, there is no attack button, so you can't do the headbutting action on this one. I've also got a Gallimimus figure in here. This one's pretty cool with the soft green coloring, and then it has this really cool yellow and brown striping from its back all the way up to its head, and its head is almost entirely that bright yellow color. And last of all, what I really would like to see in Chaos Theory is a Therizinosaurus. Now, we saw this dinosaur in Jurassic World Dominion, and I don't really know that we'll be seeing it in this new show, but I still think it would be really cool. So why don't we get started with the largest one. This is the first Jurassic World Dominion figure, and it is a super colossal Atrociraptor. This figure has the white body with the two tones of brown striping and the bright red eyes. And this one's gonna go on the Dominion side. On the Camp Cretaceous side, we've actually got two super colossal figures. This first one is Carnotaurus Toro with the clay red coloring, the two horns on the top of its head, and the battle damage on its nose. The other super colossal figure for Camp Cretaceous is the giant Indominus Rex figure. This one is one of my favorite super colossal figures. It has the all gray body with the orange eyes and these super long teeth. Now let's grab some more. This is the Jurassic World Dominion Tyrannosaurus Rex figure. This figure has a larger head than many T-Rexes and a dark brown body. We're gonna put that on the Dominion side. Now let's grab that Camp Cretaceous T-Rex. This is the Epic Roarin' T-Rex. And you can see that it is a much lighter color compared to the Jurassic World Dominion T-Rex. And best of all, has a button that activates its jaw. Let's set this down to face off with the Dominion T-Rex. Back on the Dominion side, we're gonna go with this Giganotosaurus figure. This Giganotosaurus is slightly smaller than the Dominion T-Rex, but it has this awesome spine running along its back and the bright green color all over its body. Check out these action attacks too. And we're gonna set that down right next to the T-Rex. Next for Camp Cretaceous, we're gonna go with the Camp Cretaceous Spinosaurus figure. It features a light brown skin color over most of its body, much like the T-Rex. It also has the red coloring on its face and on its spine, as well as the darker brown on the top. Let's set this down right next to the Camp Cretaceous T-Rex. For Dominion, we're next gonna go with this battle damage Allosaurus figure. This dinosaur is the smallest figure we've seen so far, but the coolest part is the battle damage right on the side that you can open up and show the stomach that's right underneath it. It's pretty gross. Plus, there is a jaw-chopping action too. We're gonna put this right in between the Giganotosaurus and the T-Rex. For Camp Cretaceous, let's go ahead and grab this Scorpius Rex figure. This figure is quite a bit smaller than the Spinosaurus, but still quite large in comparison to many other figures. It features the dark body with the brighter underbelly, and it has two action buttons, one for the jaw and one to slash the arms. And we'll set it down right in between the T-Rex and the Spinosaurus. Next up for Jurassic World Dominion is the Therizinosaurus figure. This dinosaur is actually an herbivore, but it sure looks scary with these huge claws on its hands. And it has a button on its tail for a chomping action. And let's go ahead and set it right next to the Giganotosaurus. For Camp Cretaceous, we're gonna grab this Carnotaurus Toro figure. Now we actually already have a Carnotaurus Toro figure in this collection. It is this super colossal way back here, and you can notice that there's actually quite a bit of difference in the coloring. But it's still pretty awesome, and it has a jaw-chomping action too. And we're gonna place that right next to the Spinosaurus. For Dominion, next is the Siamosaurus dinosaur figure. This figure stands on all four legs and has a spine kind of like the Spinosaurus figure over here on Camp Cretaceous, and you can use the tail to move the head up and down as well as open and close its jaw. Let's place this dinosaur on the front lines of the Dominion side here. For the next Camp Cretaceous, we're gonna grab this Albertosaurus dinosaur figure. As you can see, it's a little bit smaller than the Carnotaurus Toro figure, and it features an all-green body with orange detailing and an attack button on its tail for chomping its jaw. Now let's place it right in front of the Spinosaurus. For Dominion next, we're gonna go with the Scorpio Venator figure. I got this figure pretty recently. I actually have an older version that's colored differently. This one is in a dark brown and orange coloring, and it has an attack that you activate by pressing down on its body. And we're gonna put the Scorpio Venator right there on the Dominion side. This is a Cryolophosaurus for Camp Cretaceous. It's got a dark blue body with some red and white on it. It has adjustable arms and legs and a tail that you can move around to move its head. And let's go ahead and put it right there next to the Albertosaurus. Here is the Sound Surge Indominus Rex figure for Jurassic World Dominion. It is the first Indominus Rex on the Dominion side in this collection, and it has the sound effects that you can activate with the button. Let's put it up right behind the Siamosaurus. This Baryonyx figure is gonna be part of the Camp Cretaceous side. It features the bright green body with some brown along the top of its head and its neck, and it has the slide lever action for sound effects and chomping motion. Now let's put it right next to the Cryolophosaurus. These next two figures for Jurassic World Dominion are both basic figures, so they can't do much. But this first one is an Atrociraptor, pretty similar to the super colossal one we've got in the back here. And we're gonna put it right in the back over here. And this other one is a Pyroraptor figure, which is actually the first of this collection. And we're gonna put that right in front of the Atrociraptor. I've got a big old Stegosaurus figure for Camp Cretaceous. This one features the dark blue-gray coloring with the darker striping along its back. And it has the attack button. When you press down on its spine, it swings its tail. Now let's set this in the back here next to the Carnotaurus figure. Next for Dominion is the Sound Surge T-Rex figure. Just like the Indominus Rex figure back there, it has a sound effect button right on its back. Let's set that way in the back here next to the Atrociraptor. This next figure is the Camp Cretaceous Ceratosaurus figure. It features the classic gray, dark blue, and red detailing for the Ceratosaurus figures, and it has the slide lever action on its back for the sound effects and chomping. Let's put this down right next to the Baryonyx. Here's another Sound Surge figure for Dominion. This is the Carnotaurus version. And compared to the Camp Cretaceous Carnotaurus Toro figure, this one has a lot more simple coloring and design. There's only a little bit of gray detailing on the top of its head, and the rest of its body is just a plain red with a little bit of white underneath its chin. Now let's hear that sound effect as we set it down. For Camp Cretaceous, I've got the Sarcosuchus figure. I believe Mattel has released two versions of this. The other one is a greenish color, but this one is in the bright blue with some brighter detailing along the top of its body and the purple. And it has the tail that can control the head and the jaw. Now let's set this figure up right in front of the Ceratosaurus. And here is our final Sound Surge figure for the Dominion side. This is the Giganotosaurus version. Like the other Sound Surge figures, it's pretty basic in design, although this one does have better detailing and coloring. And of course, it's got the sound effects, so let's hear it. Next up, for Camp Cretaceous, I believe this one is called the Oranosaurus. It features posable legs, tail, and it has this slide lever on its back to activate its head. And we're gonna set it down in the back, right next to the feet of the giant super colossal Indominus Rex. Here is an Iguanodon figure for the Dominion side. This herbivore actually came as a set alongside this Scorpio Venator figure. And it features sound effects and an attack move when you press down on its body. And we're gonna set it down right here. For Camp Cretaceous, we've got a pretty sizable figure. This is another herbivore, and it is a Sinoceratops. This figure is in the gray with tan detailing and a little bit of yellow along the front of its head. And you can move the tail around to control the head. This is the Ichthyovenator dinosaur for the Dominion side. It's got a green body and a brighter green spine and tail. And like many of the Dominion figures, it has an attack when you press down on its body. Let's go ahead and put this right next to the Giganotosaurus. We're getting down to our last few here. This is a Camp Cretaceous Parasaurolophus figure. It features the yellow body with the purple and reflective pink coloring all over, and you can use its tail to control its head. And we're gonna place it down right next to the Sinoceratops. For Dominion, here is the Hammond Collection Baryonyx figure. It features the classic coloring for Baryonyxes in the dark blue with some gray, and then the white striping, and of course is extremely posable all over its body. Now let's set this down right in front of the Giganotosaurus figure. And here is the last Camp Cretaceous figure. This is the Ankylosaurus. There are a few different versions of this Ankylosaurus. This one comes in the bright blue coloring with the yellow underbelly, and it has the slide lever action on its back to swing its tail back and forth. Now let's place this down right in front of the Baryonyx over here. And our final figure in this entire collection, going to the Dominion side, is this Dimetrodon figure. This figure features the dark green brown coloring along its body, and then the bright orange and brown spine. And let's go ahead and put that right next to this Ichthyovenator. Now, which side do you think wins this versus competition? The Dominion side or the Camp Cretaceous side? Let me know in the comments below. Here is the brand new T-Rex and the baby T-Rex. I already have one of these T-Rexes, but I think this is the first of the green T-Rex that I have. So I'm super excited to check this one out. As you can see, most of its body is a dark green color. It's got the lighter underbelly, and it's got the black detailing right along the top. And it's about as adjustable as my other T-Rex figures. So you can move the ankles, you can move the legs into different positions, move the tail around, and in the neck you can also move around so it can look in different directions. And of course, there's the button at the top of its head for the chomping action. This is a really cool looking figure, and I'm sure that the T-Rex is one of the best known apex predators. Here we've got a dinosaur that you can't find in real life, but I'm sure it would be an apex predator if it was real. This is the Indominus Rex, and this is one of the big figures. You can see that it's pretty adjustable. You can move the legs into different positions, and that causes the dinosaur to look up and down. You can see it moves its neck back and forth like that. This figure also comes with the two action buttons, one for the chomping, and then one on the back for the slashing action. This is another T-Rex. This one is mostly brown. It's got the dark brown on the top, lighter brown on the sides, and then a tan on the bottom. And this T-Rex figure has a tearing action, actually. So when you press this button on its back, it tears just like that. And there's also a second action button that swings the tail back and forth. Here is a Carcharodontosaurus with blue coloring on its body and the orange and brown detailing on the top. This also has one action button for chomping. Plus, you can adjust the arms and the legs and the tail as well. Next up, we've got two Endoraptors. And obviously these dinosaurs aren't from real life, but if they were, I can guarantee you that they would be an apex predator. I just remember them from the Jurassic World movie. These were some of the most feared dinosaurs. This first Endoraptor is a more basic figure. You can only move the arms, the legs, and the tail, but you can't adjust the neck or open and close the mouth. But on this second Endoraptor figure, this one is super adjustable. It's got a bunch of points of articulation. Again, it's a double jointed tail. You can bend the knees, you can bend the ankles, you can adjust the arms fully, and you can open and close the mouth too. Right over here, we've got two Suchomimuses. This one is a blue with yellow detailing, and this one is yellow with brown detailing on the top. This one has two action buttons, one for chomping and one for the tail. This Suchomimus only has one action button that activates the jaw. Right up top here, we've got a smaller figure, but still a fearsome predator. This is a Baryonyx. It's got the green sides and belly and the brown top. The arms and legs can articulate and move around, and there's an action button on its back for chomping. Back here, actually, we've got another Baryonyx. This one has a brown body and sides with a dark gray-blue coloring on the top and the bright orange detailing right on the top of its face. And just like the other figure, the legs and the arms can move too. Here is an older Jurassic World figure. You can see that this is another T-Rex. It's got the full tan body, and on its head it's got some gray detailing. It's got those yellow eyes and an action button on its back to activate the jaw. Here we've got a newer figure from the Jurassic World Dominion series. This is a Yangchuanosaurus. It's got the green body, a lighter yellow underbelly. It's got some brown detailing along the top, and then that bright orange piece right on its head. This figure is pretty adjustable with its arms and its legs. You can see that moving the legs dips its head down like that. And the tail controls the jaw and can move the neck around too. Back here is another newer figure from the Jurassic World Dominion series. This is a Scorpiovenator. This figure has an orange belly and sides. It's got some white detailing right along the top and a dark gray-blue color right along the top of its head. This figure is fairly adjustable. You can move the arms and the legs, and when you push down on its legs, it does a chomping action. This one is another T-Rex. This T-Rex, though, is the Battle Damage Edition. It's got the button on top that you can use to turn on and off the battle damage, which is a pretty awesome feature. This figure is pretty adjustable, too. You can move the ankles, can move the legs up and down. The tail only has one joint in it, though. But the neck of this T-Rex is really adjustable. You can have him look in all directions, and you can open and close its mouth really easily. This is a Carnotaurus figure. It's got the clay red body with the darker detailing spots on the sides and the brown right along the top. You can see that the Carnotaurus has a lot of bumps and ridges and that spine right there as well. And with this figure, the tail controls the head, and there's a button as well to open and close its mouth. Here's another newer figure from the Jurassic World Dominion series, and I think this is one of my favorite newest dinosaur figures. This is the Rajasaurus. This figure also has a chomping action when you press down on the legs, and you can adjust its arms, its legs, and even twist its tail around a little bit. I love this dinosaur's head. You've got the horn right at the top, and you've got this really cool, smaller spine right on its neck, these spikes. It's really cool. Here we have another very well-known apex predator. This is a Velociraptor. This specific one is actually Velociraptor Charlie from the Amber collection. So this figure is very adjustable, can move all the different parts of its arms and legs, and you can adjust its head quite a bit as well too. And it's even got this headpiece right behind its face too. This is another ginormous T-Rex, and this T-Rex is pretty adjustable as well. As you can see, you can move the arms up and down, you can adjust the leg position, and instead of moving the neck and face up here, you actually can control it with the tail by swiveling it. This is another Velociraptor from the Amber collection. This one is Velociraptor Echo. This Velociraptor has the light brown coloring as well as the dark black right on top. And just like the other Amber collection Velociraptor, it is very adjustable on all different parts of its body. You can even move the claws on its feet up and down. Back over here, we've got a smaller Indominus Rex figure. This is an older Jurassic World figure. It's got the battle damage on the side that you can open and close. And this figure is fairly adjustable as well. You can move the legs a little bit, you can move the arms just a bit, and the tail controls the mouth and the neck too. We've got a few more awesome looking Baryonyxes in here. This first one has a slide action for different roaring sound effects. And this Baryonyx doesn't have any buttons on it, but you can use the tail to move the head around. Right over here is a well-known predator from Jurassic World. Once again, it isn't a real dinosaur, but I can guarantee this would be an apex predator. This is the Scorpius Rex. This figure has 2 action buttons on its back, one for the mouth and one for the claws. And the rest of the figure is pretty adjustable too. You can move the legs quite a bit, and you can adjust the neck to have it look around, And the tail is spring-loaded too, so you can fling the tail back and forth with those poisonous quills. Back here is a huge water dinosaur that I'm sure you recognize from the first Jurassic World movie. This is the Mosasaurus. This figure is ginormous. It's got a dark blue body on the top and then a white underbelly. And all over its body you can actually see these like white specks, a little bit of detailing. And there's a few things that you can move on this figure. You can move the fins around, you can swivel the tail back and forth, and you can open and close the jaw, which is a pretty big jaw, I'd say. Probably fit a few small dinosaurs in there. Here's another popular apex predator. This is the Spinosaurus. Did you know that the Spinosaurus is the largest known carnivorous dinosaur that existed? These were even bigger than T-Rexes. This figure has an adjustable tail, the legs are pretty movable, as well as the ankles. You can move the arms up and down, and you can actually adjust the neck quite a bit as well too. Here is another awesome T-Rex predator. This looks to be very similar as the first T-Rex that I unboxed in this video, but with different coloring. See, it's got the brown body and the darker brown on top, and just like the other T-Rex, adjustable tail, you can move the legs and the arms, and you can move the head around too. Here's another dinosaur from the new Jurassic World Dominion movie. This is a Quetzalcoatlus. I didn't really know how big these dinosaurs were until I saw them in the new Jurassic World movie. These things were huge and they took down that plane. This is a Ceratosaurus. I think we actually have another one with different coloring. This one is a dark green color with black detailing on the top, and this one is a light gray with red and a darker gray detailing on the top as well. And they both have that slide action button for different sound effects and different roars. I think the sound effects are the same though. This one's an interesting looking dinosaur. This is a Cryolophosaurus. Look at that interesting crowning on the top of its head. This Cryolophosaurus has a dark blue body with white, red, and bright orange detailing. And you can move the arms, you can move the legs, and you can use the tail to move the head around. Here is another mighty Carnotaurus, the red side and the dark, it's almost like a purple color on the top. This dinosaur has an adjustable tail and adjustable legs and arms, and there's a button on the top for the chomping action. Here's a species I don't think we've seen in this collection yet. This is an Allosaurus. It's got the dark green body with the red and white detailing. See, it's got those spikes right along its spines up top, and you can adjust the arms and the legs and the tail. And it's got the slide action button for different roars and chomps. This bright red dinosaur is a Metriacanthosaurus. It's a pretty interesting looking one. It's smaller than most of the other figures. It's got the bright orange detailing on the top of its head and the action button on its back for chomping. Next up, we've got, I believe, a Majungasaurus. This is a super colorful dinosaur. It's got the dark green, yellow, and blue on its neck. It's got those teal eyes. And like many of the other dinosaur figures, you can use the tail to move the head and neck around. This is an Albertosaurus with the battle damage edition. As you can see, it's got two different types of battle damage. One that's right there on the top of the plastic and one that you can actually open up. This has the stomach and ribs that you can close down, and then the skin that you can do to cover all of the battle damage. That's pretty cool. The rest of the figure is pretty adjustable too. You can move the legs, arms, and tail, as well as the neck, and you can open and close the mouth manually. Over here is the Carcharodontosaurus with a blue body and orange and brown detailing. Look at all those spikes right along its spine too. It's interesting how they're all different heights. With this figure, you can move the arms, legs, and tail, and there's an action button on top for chomping. Here is another Allosaurus with different coloring and different actions too. Check out those spikes right along its spine. You can see the two action buttons right here, one for the mouth and one for the arms. And I think we actually have one more Allosaurus in here with different coloring. This one is gray with yellow detailing. You can only move the arms and legs in this figure, aside from the action button on its back that controls its mouth. Right over here is another Albertosaurus. This figure is about medium-sized, and it does not have any battle damage like the one we saw earlier, but it's still pretty adjustable. You can move the arms, the legs, and you can use the tail to control the face. Here is another Carnotaurus. This one is a newer figure from the Jurassic World Dominion series. As you can see, it's got the broken horn in the front, and this figure is smaller, but pretty adjustable. You can move the legs, the arms, twist the tail, and you can move the head and jaw around too. Here are a few small Dilophosaurus figures. This first one is mostly gray with red detailing and an action button on the tail that activates the frills. The second one is a bit more brightly colored. It has a green body and 2 different tones of orange, as well as the action button to activate the frills. And last but not least, we've got a bunch of smaller Velociraptor figures. Oh, actually, this is another baby T-Rex, just like we saw at the beginning of the video. But the rest of these figures are all Velociraptors, so let's check them out one by one. First, we've got the tan and brown Velociraptor. This one has a slashing action, spring-loaded torso, so it swings back and forth. This Velociraptor has a brown and yellow body with battle damage that you can open and close on the side. This next Velociraptor has a red and dark purple body, and you can move the arms, legs, and tail, as well as the mouth, but there's no special features on this figure. And these last 2 figures are similar in movement, but with different coloring. It's got the blue body with a yellow and gold coloring. This one has a dark brown color with orange on the top. Let's get started with this classic, ginormous T-Rex figure. This Dominion T-Rex has a dark brown body with the black along the top. It's got the barcode scanner right on its back right there. And it's got a pretty thick neck and a pretty big head compared to a lot of the other T-Rex figures. It's got some evil yellow looking eyes. It's got a mouthful of teeth, plus the mouth actually has a throat, so you can actually fit some miniature dinosaurs in there. It doesn't have a stomach compartment, but as you can see, you could probably fit a few small dinosaurs in there. And the coolest feature of this figure is that it's got a button on its tail to activate the jaw, and you can move the tail to swing the torso around too. So it makes it look really lifelike. Next up, we've got a Megaraptor figure. This is one of my newest figures that I bought fairly recently. It's pretty awesome. It's got those huge claws in the front. It's got a red and a dark blue body. It's got some feathering detailing along its back and along its head, as well as some white detailing right along its face. It's got the barcode scanner right on its back. You can twist the tail. The tail also has some cool looking feathers, which is pretty unique. And you can adjust the arms and legs of this figure. Plus, there is a chomping action when you press down on its body. It's got some sound effects too. That's pretty cool. This, I believe, is the Majungasaurus figure. This dinosaur has a lighter underbelly, a dark green side, and the brown detailing along the top. It's got some cool ridges right along its head, as well as the super tall orange ridge right on the top of its head. And you can move the arms and legs of this figure, as well as swivel the tail around to control the neck. And with this figure, you can actually adjust the standing pose by moving its legs. See how it leans down when you adjust the legs? That's a pretty cool feature. Not that many other figures that I have work like that. And of course, it's got the button on its tail to activate the jaw. This wild-looking dinosaur is the Ichthyovenator. This dinosaur has a dark green body along its underside and on its sides, and it's got the super bright green detailing right along its spine and on its tail too. This is a pretty unique tail. This dinosaur has a long snout with a bunch of teeth inside. And the best part is that this dinosaur has an action when you press down on its body. It does a chomping action. Here we've got a ginormous Allosaurus figure, but not only that, this is an extreme battle damage Allosaurus. I think it's the only one I have that is a battle damage edition. This Allosaurus is almost as big as most of the T-Rex figures I have, which is unusual for an Allosaurus figure. And it's pretty adjustable. You can swivel the tail all around, you can move the legs and the arms, and there's a button on its back to activate the jaw too. But the coolest part is the extreme battle damage on its side. You can hide it completely, and then you can spring it open, it's spring loaded, and you can even lift up the ribs to check out the insides underneath. I think that's its stomach right there, and it's pretty squishy. That is really cool. And you can close it up and hide it. This is the Atrociraptor figure from Jurassic World Dominion. It's got the dark red eyes and the brown striping, which is actually very similar to this super colossal Atrociraptor that I have back here. Look at that, they're pretty similar. On this little figure, its mouth is closed and you can't open it. But on this super colossal figure, it is a lot more adjustable. It has those same dark red eyes, the striping all along its body, and this super colossal figure has the stomach compartment, so you can actually feed this huge figure smaller dinosaurs. This is the Rajasaurus figure in the dark blue edition. As you can see, most of its body is that dark blue-gray color. It's got some white detailing along its neck, on its arms, and on its chin. It's got some big old spines right along the top of its neck, and this figure actually has a chomping action when you press down on its body. I've noticed that they're doing this chomping action for a lot of the new Jurassic World Dominion figures. And I've actually got another Rajasaurus figure with different coloring here. This one is dark brown along its body and undersides, and it's got the dark blue just along the top and along those spines right there. It's got the horn on the top of its head and that same chomping action when you press down on its body. Moving along, we've got the Sound Surge T-Rex figure. This figure is a lot smaller than most of the T-Rex figures I have, but you can swivel the tail around, you can move the legs and the arm, and you can open and close the jaw manually. You'll see that the tongue and lower teeth are not colored though, which is kind of a bummer, but it still has a cool feature that when you press down on the button, you get some T-Rex sound effects. Speaking of T-Rexes, I've got this huge super colossal T-Rex figure from Jurassic World Dominion. This figure is ginormous. Check it out. It has similar coloring as the first T-Rex that we saw in this video, but it has some cool features as well. Since it's a super colossal T-Rex, it has the stomach compartment, so you can feed this dinosaur smaller dinosaurs down its throat all the way to the stomach. And that is pretty cool. Next up, we've got a Giganotosaurus figure. I believe this is the Strike and Roar figure. It comes with two awesome functions. The first swings its torso and its head around for that chomping action. And the second button on the bottom of its tail opens and closes the jaw for roaring. That's pretty cool. That's some pretty wild movement. Over here in the corner, you may have already noticed, I've got another Giganotosaurus figure. This one is the Super Colossal Edition, and it is huge, just like the other Super Colossal figures. It's got the dark green body with black detailing. It's got the huge jaw with some really pointy long teeth. And since it's a Super Colossal figure, it has the stomach compartment for feeding smaller dinosaurs. Next, I've even got some brand new figures that we're gonna open up on camera. This one was a bit damaged in shipping, as you can see. This is the Velociraptor Blue and Atrociraptor pack. Let's check it out. Here is the Atrociraptor Blue pack. You can move its neck up and down, you can open and close its jaw, as well as move its arms and its legs. And here is the super bright orange and white Atrociraptor. And this Atrociraptor has the same movements as Velociraptor Blue. You can move the neck up and down, you can open and close the jaw, and move the arms and legs too. And it's got the barcode scanner right at the top of its back too. This is the Sound Surge Carnotaurus figure. It's pretty basic in design and not a ton of coloring. It's like almost completely red. It's got a little bit of white underneath its chin, and like the other Sound Surge figures, its tongue and its lower teeth are not colored, which is a bit of a bummer. But let's check out those sound effects that you can activate by pressing this button on its back. Here is the basic Pyroraptor figure. This figure is a dark red color with some black along its tail and its legs, as well as some black detailing right along its face too. And on this figure, you can only move its arms, its legs, and its tail a little bit. Speaking of Pyroraptor, I've got this ultimate uncaged Pyroraptor. Let's open it up and check it out. Here is the uncaged Pyroraptor, and this figure is huge. This Pyroraptor has sensors all over its face and on its chin, so you actually can do quite a bit with this figure. There's a training mode, there's a play mode, there's a wild mode. So let's check it out and see what kind of sound effects it comes with. Wow, that's pretty cool. I think it's in wild mode right now, because it's roaring a lot at me. All right, now its eyes turn blue. Let's see what happens when I touch those sensors. Wow, there's so much you can do with this thing. You can even train this Pyroraptor, which it's not obeying me right now, so it's obviously not trained right now, but that's pretty cool. I could spend a lot of time on this figure. You gotta check it out for yourself. Over here, we've got the Rowdy Roars Atrociraptor figure. This figure is also battery operated. Let's see what happens when you tap the top of its head. So it's got some sound effects, and it can open and close its jaw too. That's pretty neat. Over here, we've also got the Rowdy Roars Dilophosaurus figure. This one is also battery operated. So let's check that out. And let's see what sound effects this one can make too. That's pretty cool. Here is another Giganotosaurus figure. This is the Sound Surge edition. So it's a bit smaller than many of the other Giganotosaurus figures, and it's fairly adjustable. You can open and close the jaw, and move the arms, the legs, and the tail. And of course, it's got the sound effects too. This is the Extreme Damage Dimetrodon. It has a light green body and the super bright spine on its back, and it's got the battle damage right on its side that you can turn on and turn off with the click of a button. Here is a smaller Carnotaurus figure. This one is dark green and orange, and it is pretty adjustable. You can move the neck, you can open and close the jaw, and you can move all the limbs as well. We've got a couple small Atrociraptor figures in here. Here is the classic white with brown striping Atrociraptor. And over here, we've got a light tan Atrociraptor with brown striping that's in a crawling pose. That's pretty cool. Next up, we've got an extreme battle damage Velociraptor. This Velociraptor has a white underbelly and sides with the dark blue on top, and the extreme battle damage right on the side that you can turn on and off. And this final dinosaur is an extreme battle damage Coelurus. It has the dark green body with the red legs, tail, and head, and it's got the extreme battle damage just like the Velociraptor that you can turn on and off. Want to see more dino videos? Click the subscribe button now.